Guys, if you want to go up and grab it, all the stuff over there, so help yourself.
Morning everyone. Morning. Yeah, that was quite good for this time of morning. So hi, I'm Pete Cliff. I'm the creative manager for Alton Towers. My responsibility is for everything entertainment based. So the street team, the pirate show, hotel stuff, Scarefest, fireworks, Christmas, special events, all that kind of stuff. That's my remit, so I do all the creative, so script writing, directing, casting, all that kind of stuff. It's Jerry as well, as you all know. Everyone go, hello Jerry. Hello Jerry. Yeah. Jerry will be talking about his role in the sanctuary and other things as well. So I think we'll kind of do the Q&A together, so you can kind of ask as many questions or direct them to whoever you want throughout. So yeah, I think I'll just start by kind of explaining a little bit about what I've done, my kind of background, and then talk about some of the scare mazes, and then it's probably best if you just ask questions, otherwise I'll ramble on about stuff you're not that bothered about, which I don't really want. So I've worked at the resort for about 7 years now, 7 or 8 years. Started off as an entertainer in 2006 for Chocolate Towers. Anyone remember that catastrophic event? Yeah. Choc Suvius. Yeah, remember the thing that took out children with miniature heroes? Yeah, yeah, magical. So yeah, I started back then as a chocolatier, basically doing kind of like red coat style entertainment, magic and juggling and all that kind of stuff. While still at college, and then I went off to drama school, did a degree at a place called Lipper, which is in Liverpool, and then came back, and obviously you might have seen me doing things like Sir Edward England, amongst other characters on Park, but then the opportunity came up last year to be a kind of creative position, a position that we haven't had within the department for about 3 years. There's been no specific creative. We used to ship everything in, aside from occasional bits and bobs for Scarefest. So things like the pirate show was written and directed by an external person. The Ringo shows, the Alton shows, all at the hotel, that was shipped out to externals. So this is the first year we've had my position back, and that's kind of evolved. I mean, I hope you've seen some changes from an entertainment perspective over the past 12 to 16 months whilst I've had that position. Yeah, so you've heard what I do in terms of a remit. Like I said, it's probably better if I don't kind of waffle on it. If you've got any specific questions, go for them. I'm sure I'll waffle then. Or for Jerry, indeed. Jerry, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi everyone.
Hi.
My name's Jerry Cannell. I'm a jobbing actor. I'm not really Dr. Kelman.
Although you think you are.
Although I think I am. Well, my history goes back way before you were born. I started in the business in 1956, 57, as a juvenile. We don't have them anymore. Chorus, went into a bit of stage work with a touring group called the Nutters, which was a comedy team. And then I skipped a few years. The last big thing I did was a show called The Rat Pack Live, in which I played comedian Jerry Lewis. And then in 2010, I did my last show at the Broadway Theatre, Peterborough, and turned to the producers and said I'd had enough of going up and down motorways. And then I did a corporate actually at the Telford Hotel Golf Club and Spa. That was the last one I did. That was November 2010. And then I got bored, with doing nothing. And in February or March, April 2011, I came here. And the rest has built up to the part I play now. I must say right from the start that the guy that gave me the opportunity to create this wonderful, weird, disturbing character standing next to me, Peter gave me the opportunity to audition for the part, and I brought some bits in and he liked them, and we worked together and changed it, and the outcome is the guy that you're probably going to meet later on today, the disturbing Dr. Kelman. And that's me. Thank you very much.
Cool. Okay, so I suppose, are there any kind of questions? We'll just get the ball rolling. There's no point in having to just shout out.
Sort of welcome both of you, for Jerry maybe. Are you here every day during Scarefest being Dr. Kelman, or do you get a bit of time off?
No, it's a solid 17-day run, every day, 8+ hours a day. Having said that, we love every minute of it. We've got a fantastic team here, the Sanctuary crew, the people, the ensemble that I work with, and that's what it is. It's not Kelman, it's the whole team. We're really good mates and we get on so well. So yes, it is a slog. It's a straight through slog, as you can probably hear. So does that answer your question?
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
What happens if you get ill?
What happens if I get ill?
Yeah.
I'm a trooper.
Jerry doesn't get ill.
We keep going. We keep going. Probably the only profession that you do. You just keep going. It's just the way it is.
It's the same for whatever you do. If you're an actor in a touring company, or if you're in rep, if you get ill, it's like, you come on and do the show, and then you might throw up off stage at one point, so. But no, you don't get ill, do you, Jerry? You're pretty hardy.
Question for Pete.
Yeah.
Obviously down in the south, quite like to stay off your mazes now, obviously with Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah.
Etc. Is that something Towers are looking to do? So obviously they've been on the masses.
Well, IP-led mazes.
Sorry.
IP-led mazes.
The free roaming ones where you just do as you wish.
Oh, the free flow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's one thing, because I went down and experienced Fright Nights for the first time about 3 weeks ago. And I saw their free flow Cabin in the Woods maze, which I thought was a brilliant concept. I love the idea of being able to walk through a room. I don't know if everyone's picked up on this. Who doesn't want me to spoil it for them? Good. Okay. So the way that you walk into a room, and then you set off an infrared sensor, which then electro-locks the door behind you so you can experience the full sequence, I think is a breath of fresh air for a scare attraction. I love the fact that you can break off and go. The issue is that they've not created a sustainable attraction, in a sense that it's brilliant the first time, and if you're like me, who's not really fazed by scare attractions anymore, I just went off on my own. I loved it, I really enjoyed it. However, going in the second time in the night, I was bumping into people, sequences weren't complete, actors were resetting all the time, it didn't seem operationally clear enough, and you're starting to get along the lines of the kind of conga line, Universal American Horror House feel, and it just missed that opportunity. So yes, I would love to do a free flow maze. And if anything, when I experienced Fright Nights, I thought, can I do that now? Can I retrofit the plans and do maybe Sanctuary free flow? But obviously it takes a lot more operational consideration to achieve that. So yeah, it is something we're looking into in the future.
Obviously, Carnival's had quite a bit of a revamp this year with the whole finale addition to it. What was the inspiration for creating such a different finale compared to previous years?
Okay, so it's in terms of the mazes, I've kind of inherited the themes. The only one that I've created from scratch was the Sanctuary. So everything else, Terror of the Towers, Carnival Zombies, have been inherited product. So I've got a real passion for creating a story-led experience. I don't like things that are kind of non-cohesive plots. So probably the best example of that on Park is Terror. You know, you're going through a crate maze, rubble maze, urban explorers, okay, we get it. Then there's family dining, which is wallpaper and spooks. And then there's monks, and then bald vampires, which is quite modern. That doesn't gel well with me. I prefer to create an immersive atmosphere and a storyline and a reason to be going through, because for me, if you're going in a scare attraction, you, the guest, should be the protagonist. It should be your story. There is a reason why you're going, which is the biggest problem I had with thought spaces, was there's no reason why you're going in there. Why are you going into the cabin in the woods? No one told you. It was just like a host went, in you go, and you're like, okay, it's fun, it's great, but it doesn't take you on a journey. So with Carnival, which is a maze which I find the most difficult at times, because it's that whole clown theme, and clowns are a very difficult theme to work with, because you find that if people are scared of clowns, they won't go anywhere near to the Carnival of Screams. So the only people who go in are people who find them quite funny, which then makes it really, really hard for an audience, for the actors to do their work in Carnival of Screams. So the idea was that I've always wanted to give a maze a theatrical ending and avoid a stroke-based finale, because they are so effective, the stroke-based finale. But we've got one in terms of Terror of the Towers. We've got one that's slightly different for Sanctuary, and like I said, I just wanted to go with something completely different and make it very theatrical. And when you explore and do all the research surrounding a carnival and a kind of freak show, Knife Thrower seemed to be this quite kind of pseudo-sinister character to potentially put in as the central quarter. So it seemed obvious to create a story wrapped around that character, the reason why you're going back into the carnival, and then finish it with this encounter with Jack, which should make you kind of run out the exit. People enjoy it? Yeah? No?
Sometimes I haven't done it yet.
Okay, well, yeah, I think it's a very tough one to do theatrical, and I think if you embrace the theatricality of it, it's a really nice ending. If you don't, it's naff. So, yeah, that's it really.
We've got a question for Jerry from the forum. How surprised were you by the reaction to the Sanctuary and Dr. Kelman from both of the enthusiast community and the general public?
How surprised was I?
Yes.
I suppose shocked, really. Quite amazed that such a character that was so odd and disturbing should be liked by the public. I can appreciate they come in and they, get scared and disturbed by the character. That I thought would be the end of it. It's phenomenal. I'm flattered, and I love all the lovely remarks that people send to me and talk to me all over the park. I'm gobsmacked that such a character would be taken to your hearts. He's not Mickey Mouse, is he? He's really an oddball. But yeah, surprised, and long may it carry on.
Here to that.
Yeah.
Pete? Yeah, will at some point they'll be bringing Jerry back down into excess for the smiler, because he is the face of the smiler.
Yeah, I agree in some respects, but that's not, as I'm sure Jerry explained, it's not my decision to make that. The way the department works in David's is we are a marketing-led department. Marketing give us a brief of what we have to deliver. We're a very open constraint, so if we were ever going to do a fourth maze, the brief would generally be, we would like a new maze, which is Thrill Seekers Market, that is a second gate attraction. That's the general brief. But I can't go in and go, I want to do a Thrill Seekers maze, because then that's not within their brief, if that makes sense. Within Jerry, being down at the Smiler, there is it's kind of, I have my own personal opinion on it, and also a kind of storyline opinion. But their perspective is that the Smiler is not the Sanctuary, and the two are separating now even more so, like with the script changes that we've made in the Sanctuary. Jerry has a bitter taste in his mouth about the Smiler because it's this new form of correction as compared to his historic form. It's almost like the lobotomy. And I make this parallel. I've made this parallel to you, haven't I, Jerry? The person who invented the lobotomy was obsessed with his theory that the best way to deal with behavioural problems was to get an ice pick and nail it through the eyes of people and sever the frontal lobe of the brain. And he thought that was the right thing to do. Then they came up with a pill that did exactly the same thing, and he didn't have to do the treatment. But he was determined that his old-fashioned method of getting the ice pick and doing that was the way forward. So there was this resentment he had between him and modern medicine. So much so that he changed his approach and said, well, actually, it's for problem children. And after they invented the pill for the lobotomy, he went off and started operating on children doing the lobotomy. The youngest, which was 4 years old. That just shows how twisted and evil this person had got, which is starting for something so pure, which is that kind of parallel that we make. So it's hard to say, and I don't have any decision over that with regards to Jerry being down by the Smile.
What sort of, do you get inspiration anywhere as you Jerry with the Kelman Sanctuary?
Inspiration for Kelman?
Yeah, and the Sanctuary.
Yeah, I mean, that guy, I can't remember his name, who did the lobotomy is a great example. But if you look back to 1950s mental institutions, and it must be said that the Sanctuary isn't a mental institution, but it isn't, and there is a big difference. However, it does have some very similar qualities, because if you go back to 1950s, a lot of the time, mental institutions were privately owned. And it would start with one doctor who would go, I know, I can cure everyone. And it starts off with a positive message, a positive thought or feeling. They would go and go, we can help people. That's the way this can be. We can help you to sort out your issues or problems or that kind of stuff. But then all of a sudden, they'd start these treatments that would actually be quite intense and torturous. And then they get so self-absorbed in this kind of method of, or godlike status of correcting people, that it would actually become quite a menacing operation that was behind closed doors that people wouldn't know about. So that's where a lot of the inspiration came from. Mixing that in with the Smiler. Because the original intention that came from MMM, which is Merlin Magic Making, the head creative office for the group, was that the Sanctuary, or whatever it was going to be called back then, was going to be a modern looking maze. So a lot of the concept imagery was of things like the Matrix and test tubes and all that kind of stuff, which I just thought didn't really work. It was going to be a predecessor to the Smiler. So we ripped it right back and kind of laid this kind of foundation of realism within it, kind of like a 1950s asylum, and took that. Myself and Jerry, after Jerry was successful, we sat down and we trailed through clips and images of people who were similar to this character, who were so twisted. I showed you that video about the guy who did the tour of the, it was so cod, it was so false. He was literally scripting going, So here we are in the recreational room, and look how happy everyone is. Look, here's Johnny. And Johnny walks over and goes, if Johnny behaves himself, he might be able to go and pot some plants. Isn't that right, Johnny? Well, that'd be swell, Doctor. Thank you, Johnny.
We actually filmed that.
Yeah, we did our own
We
version of it.
actually did our own version of it, but it wasn't used.
It wasn't right. It was a bit too comical. Sorry, do you want to answer a bit of that question as well, Jerry? Inspiration.
Yeah, inspiration. From my point of view, it started off with a character that I created in my mind called Dr. Wildman. He had an accent like this. He was sort of Austrian German accent, and was very sinister. I don't know if anyone remembers the actor Peter Lorre. Peter spoke like this. It was very quiet, sinister sort of voice, and from that we built it up to Kelman. So basically it was a combination. I realised what he wanted. He wanted an English version of that, and that's what it's based on. I've looked back and I found a character called Dr. Cameron, who had a large hospital in Canada and worked for, in latter years, the CIA, FBI to start with, and CIA. And he was actually doing what Kelman was doing in real life. And there are people, it's documented, there are people that are, you know, sort of, yeah, he did this to me and he did that to me, to try and cure them, to try and make them well and make them better. Of course, he was a complete nutcase. But the thing is that during the 50s, of course, we had the problem with communism and Reds under the bed and the McCarthy era, and everyone was looking over their shoulder, leading right up to Cuba in '62. Well, so they would try anything to control the minds of people, and with the object of getting the enemy and controlling them, you know. So it stems from that sort of background, as Peter said, you know, from his research and from my little sort of research for the character, and that's where it came from.
I think a lot of it as well is actually just looking at social conformity and watching countless videos and researching about what people try and achieve and how they achieve it. It's all psychological stuff, but it led us down a very clear path, which eventually led to the creation of the sanctuary. Yeah.
Do you going to see any more scare zones?
Scare zones? Yeah, I love scare zones. I went up to the zombie scare zone in the ocean and there was a queue. I was like, no, it's a scare zone. There shouldn't be a queue, and that's the reason why they work so well, is because they are free flow attractions or free flow themed environments with performers. This kind of comes on to probably a question one of you might ask later on, but I think there is a future in having scare zones everywhere. But then that kind of goes off brand, so maybe we look in the future at having a kind of night and day offering. So by day until 4 o'clock it's family, after 4 o'clock till 10, 11, midnight.
24 hours.
24 hours. And we have a kind of terror zone, and the whole park is full of performers and lighting. What's that? Yeah, or just a gel over a generator, that'll do me. Yeah, so yeah, I'd love to, but it's just going to be a marketing-led decision that puts that in, and also budget.
Just to pick up on that, sorry, with the lighting of rides,
yes,
where does that come from? Like, is that from you, or is that from elsewhere on the park?
It comes from our department. However, it is a budget-restricted department. We have to operate very, very close to the bone when it comes down to budget. We really do. And we looked at the opportunity to gel some of the lights this year. However, it's a very big project to make sure they're all gelled. We can't just gel them. It's not a piece of coloured film. you have to replace the bulb, and the bulb is anywhere between £80 and £300 per bulb, depending on which light it is. I know if you've been to Thorpe Park, they do it great. It looks brilliant, but they use smaller halogens than we do, so it's a much more expensive bulb. So I think to do generally the park, it's about £8,000 to get everything gelled.
What about for rides? Like there was a good year a few years ago where Nemesis was lit in red. A smoke machine was put down in the pit, and it was just the ride that was uplit.
So that year, which is probably 2010, I believe, which is when they had the movers round Oblivion as well, because they weren't the lights that we require, the safety critical lights.
Yes,
They were theatrical lighting. That was even more money. I think for that season alone, we spent around about £25,000 just on the theatrical lighting. So it's a question of, do you want the sanctuary to operate, or do you want some lights? And but that's the kind of question that we have to ask ourselves. And it sounds like we're taking the mickey, but they're the decisions. Now the problem is as well that we could invest in the £8,000 worth of lighting across the park. However, that's not to say that all of the departments of park will be happy with the level of lighting, because things like on Rita and some places on Nemesis, park ops use the lighting and the cameras to make sure areas are safe. Now, if you put a blue filtered halogen on it, or a green filtered halogen, it reduces the lumineers of the light and therefore makes it darker. If that means that you can't see what's going on, then it's not safe. They go rip it out. So we can't spend £8,000 on something for the park ops and maintenance to go, nah, it's not light enough, get rid of it. And we go, oh, we've just spent £8,000. We've got nothing to do with it. So one thing I've tried to do this year, and you might have noticed it in Dark Forest, is just slowly drip feed it in and get some greens and blues in there. Also looking at different areas of the park as well to potentially put some coloured gels in. So it's a slow burn, but it's one that I'm really passionate about in trying to push forward.
Terror of the Towers is, well, it's 10 years, the concept is now 10 years old. It's obviously been evolved through many iterations since it started. We can't give away too much spoilers, but are there plans for it to evolve further, or is it going to stay as that, or are we going to look and see something new with it being within its age?
Again, if I had the budget this year, I would have done a complete revamp of Terror. It's kind of where my sights are targeted now. But I think I'll always keep the Terror of the Towers brand. I think it's a very, very synonymous brand that we've got with Alton. I think it's very strong. You've got the Gothic Towers, why try and make it look like a modern nightclub? It won't, you know. So I will always keep Terror of the Towers, but I think it's about time for a relaunch of the theme, and a complete invested relaunch, not just the moving around of rooms. Because the problem is that we have a difficulty as compared to places like Tully's or Farmageddon or Scare Kingdom, is they can get away with spending very little in some respects on their attractions. But just to put it into perspective, health and safety wise for us, and this is a thought quote, not from here because I don't know the budget exactly, but just to get the health and safety sign off for the Thorpe mazes costs around £60,000, because we get everything done through ADIPS, which are the same people who do the rides. We are so hot on our health and safety, it's unreal. And that is so important, because it's only a matter of time until someone goes into a scare maze across the country somewhere and something fatal will happen, because a set will fall down, or an actor will go too far, or something will happen. So we are so hot on that. So it's very expensive for us to do, even like moving things around in Terror of the Towers. To do it well costs a lot of money, you know. And also, if you think about changing the story, the rubber maze and the crate maze take up a big part of that experience. And they would, because they're so in that urban explorer theme, they would completely have to go. So that's 2 new rooms, which, you know, again, to the level of theming and detail that we require, would be a very expensive venture. But yes, a new one soon.
What are you most looking forward to about the future? Is there anything that's exciting you coming in the next few years?
Yeah, immediately, fireworks. I'm really excited because I've written them this year. and design them. So I hope you enjoy them. Also, I think CBBS Land is going to be a real influx into the entertainment as well. It's lots of kind of like meet and greets and mini shows and that kind of stuff, but that area will come to life. And I think it's the perfect thing for our younger audience. I think it will really grasp that kind of preschool age and really help the park. And then the future is kind of mapped out now as to where we need to be. There's lots of projects going on in the back of my mind, and I know in the office, about certain events and certain investments that I can't talk about right now, but that have the potential to put. I don't know if you've seen this yet, but I've tried to get the ball rolling with entertainments again, with things like the Street Team, the MPV, Bravo. If you caught that show in the summer, which is one of the most proud, I think it's one of the proudest pieces of product in terms of kind of street theatre that I've created. Much more in that way, in that form, because you know, to do things well costs a lot of money, and we just don't have the money. So it's just about kind of trying to convince the powers that be, and they do believe in it. But just to go, oh, I really liked Bravo last year. How much did that cost? Okay, how much for the whole season? Whoa, really? Yeah, okay, do you want to give it to me? I know, it's a slow burn, but like I say, because there's been no one in my position for the past 3 years, 4 years, there's been no one biting at the heels of management to go, let's get some more money for entertainment, because I think it's a massive part of what we do. But again, it has to be invested in. The Pirate Show is a perfect example of something that was an afterthought or a scaled back product. And I love the Pirate Show. I was in the Pirate Show for several years, but it's such a small, contained performance. It's neither here nor there. If you go and see it, I think it's a quality performance. I think the guys do a great job of the show. It's funny, I think they're talented, I think it's great. However, for a show to work, it needs to stand up against Rise Like 13 and The Flume and that family market, where people come in and they go, we could do 13, we could do that, but there's a show about to start and I really want to see it. That doesn't happen with the Pirate Show now. The Pirate Show is a kind of, oh, we're having lunch, oh, there's a show on, should we watch it? Okay. And then they enjoy it, but it's not got that pull. So in the future, hopefully, will give us a product, whether it's street theatre, whether it's a big show, whether it's an arena show, whether it's a new venue, whether it's an entertainment venue, hotel entertainment venue, so many ideas, so many opportunities. Hopefully one of them will be kind of created. Yeah.
Just to elaborate on the street theatre kind of side of things, are the park resort ever going to look into having a parade like they had in years gone by? I mean, I personally love the parade. It symbolised the end of a day, a magical day when you could walk down and all the characters would come past you and you could meet Henry the Hound. Is there any plans to reinvent that?
That's a hard one for me, because we all here love that kind of nostalgic charm that Towers used to have, that Peter Rabbit, that parade feel. It was great. Now we're in a kind of world of internet and immediate kind of marketing and immediate media. I think there's a much bigger differentiation between unknown and IP characters, and it goes to show with our characters like Finn and Squirrel, which really struggle on Park, because kids go, do you want to meet Finn? Who's Finn? Because they're on the internet all the time, they're being bombarded with marketing. They don't recognise these characters. I know we could invest in them more from a marketing perspective, but it's almost as if the IP now is probably key. That's not my opinion. That's probably what I think is the answer, and it's not something I've explored. So I'd say if we become an IP park, and I don't know, by the way, I'm not suggesting we will do, but if we ever did, then I think potentially a parade would be brilliant. You know, an Ice Age float, a CBBS float, and whatever else we might have would be a really nice thing. I think that would get the crowds. However, I think if we brought back Henry Hound and the Count and Henrietta and all these other characters, I just don't think it would have that the pull that a parade costs to operate.
Just a question coming back to some of the scare mazes. Without giving away all your secrets, how much is, as far as like batching and getting people through, keeping groups separate, and I know obviously there's all the different trip effects and stuff like that, but how much of that is human and how much of that is control, like cameras or teams working backstage? How big's the backstage? What, you know, is it computers? Is it just simply just actors delaying things on radios? What sort of goes on?
It is pretty much 100% human.
Yeah.
As soon as people go into a maze, their speed is determined by the group, and it's the hardest thing to get right in a scare maze, because you'll get one group that goes in and they are bricking it, and they'll be like all the way through. Then you'll get another group, which is a bunch of chavs, and they go, oh, no, what?
I do the first one with the confidence of the second one.
It's very camp as well. No, it's all down to humans. However, there are certain obstacles and things that we put into mazes that slow people down, speed people up, which make it very difficult for us, but there are parts of the maze that make the maze what it is. So, for example, in Terror of the Towers this year, we are having nightmares because the scaffolding company have built the drop down too low. And that means, for the first time ever, we're getting people double batching in crate maze. And the timings are completely off. So, for example, because it's so low, if there's a group that all go through that have got an average height of 5'6", they go through pretty quickly, so they're gone. If there's one person in the group that's anywhere near my height, 6'7", or anything else that's like maybe a big guy, they're almost on their hands and knees and they go really, really slowly.
And a rucksack as well.
Or a rucksack, yeah. And they bump into each other, and it makes it very, very hard for the actors to give a good experience when you've got this batching issue. There are some things that we can do, but generally we do let them, we let the actors try and hold people back, stop people, or avoid stopping people throughout the maze to make sure everyone gets that intense experience that a scare maze should be. But it can't be consistent. And that's, one of the qualities that makes scare mazes great and also terrible, because they can either be really, really good on a run-through, or really bad, depending on where you are. And that's just how a scare maze is, whereas if you go through Jewel, it's the same every time, pretty much.
We could just do one more question, that would be fantastic, because we're going to have to move on in a sec, I think, to get onto the park.
How many actors does it take to run the 3 scare mazes?
It takes 47 for 3, which is a lot less than 4. They run on about 20 per maze, 23, whereas we run on anywhere between 14 and 17. But example, day 1, if anyone came on day 1, we had 4 illnesses for Terror of the Towers of a 14-person cast, which really, really impacted the quality of the attraction. So we are very much at the mercy of our performers. That was a quick question. We can do one.
Another one. Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
Do you feel restricted? It's a question for both of you. Do you feel restricted in any way by, say, health and safety, budget, or what you did?
Yeah, and yeah. What would I do differently? Lots of things. There are so many examples in our mazes of restrictions for health and safety. Who's not been through Carnival yet? Close your ears. For example, the drop-down billboard. The health and safety we had to go through for that is unreal. Put a barrier around it, weighted with 3 tons. Put it on pistons, put guide ropes in. You go to Tully's, it's a piece of rope. They've got the same kind of thing there. It just unreels a piece of rope there and pulls it back in. And it comes so close to people's heads. We are so restricted by health and safety. It is unreal. Things have to have loading weights, things have to do this, do that. Everything has to be tied down in our mazes. Any kind of instruments, that kind of stuff. And then budget is a big one. we have got probably one of the smallest budgets on par. From next year, because we've got a big product, we've got a lot of performers coming to CBeebies land. Our budget is so small, so small. As I've already said, you know, if you want world-class performers, you have to pay the right money. You really, really do. And perfect example here, we're very, very lucky to have Jerry because he's so passionate about what he does. And I work very closely with the performers to try and ensure they're happy and they're fulfilled and they're doing what they want to do, as opposed to being constrained by the budgets, which they often do. I don't know if you want to kind of...
No, I mean, I would really love to see a massive budget for ENTs. We don't have it, so we do what we do. It's very kind of big to say that about me, but it also goes for all the other people that work in all the mazes. They are truly amazing people, and they work so hard. It would be very nice to have the big budget. We don't have it, so we do the very best we can, and it seems to be working. We get lots of people keep saying how much they enjoy the mazes. So I know that this guy, he can't say it, but I'll say it. He fights his corner for us, and he knocks his head against a brick wall a lot of the time when he says marketing. I cringe because I feel for him so much that when he goes in there and meets these people and they stare at him as if to say, well, we don't get it. And he's fighting so hard that one day I hope that he will get them to realise that entertainment here is so valuable. I just hope one day you get it there, mate. It won't be in my day, I don't think, but you'll get there. Keep plugging away. I really do believe in this man. Fantastic guy.
Thanks, Jerry.
I must say, on behalf of all of Towers Times and our community, that it's really obvious the improvement in the creative side of the park, and we owe a massive thanks to you for that, and your wonderful team of people that you have working around you.
I do have to say, it's in no way just me. I am literally just a coordinator of everything else.
We know how hard you work. We see you with the band and all sorts of things. So, like, we will just take our hat off to you and all of your team. So, on behalf of Towers Times, thank you very much for everything you do for us.
I do have to say, though, everything that we do on Park is part of a bigger team. The shows would not be on the quality that they are, or the mazes, if it wasn't for the fantastic performers that we have. The scenic team, the construction team, the technical team, the operations team, the projects team. They are all fantastically talented. If any of them weren't as good as they were, these mazes wouldn't be the quality, or the fireworks wouldn't be the quality. So you know, if you ever see them kind of knocking around or comment on them, they are exceptionally talented within the constraints that they work in. So thank you. Thank you for being as passionate as you are about Alton Towers and entertainment. Jerry, thank you for coming as well. Please enjoy Scarefest. Yeah, thank you.
So, guys, we've got a little something for you on behalf of Towers Times. I know you're not supposed to accept gifts, but we really had to. Appreciate that.
Thank you very much. Oh, that's very kind. That doesn't go on YouTube.
We're going to have to move out in a second, and I'm going to have to issue you all your tickets. But before we go, if anybody, these guys, if they won't mind having, if anyone wants a photo, we can take a quick one. We'll put it on the forum for you guys. I was going to get Pixel involved, but they wouldn't come down. So we're going to do it ourselves in-house. If you would like a quick photo, it's going to have to be really quick. And as you leave, we're going to issue tickets for your mazes.
So we better get against that wall, isn't it?
Oh, and we're also going